Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Not that anyone's coming back, but about an interesting topic today. Well, an interesting topic to me. I am really interested in the topic of queer time and how queer people experience time and certain life moments and achievements and milestones, and how they vary from a more heterosexual or cis sort of lifestyles, lives. The internet, there's varying degrees of what gay time is, definitions and think pieces about it. I've read a few articles and I'll link them in the description. Best way to start off with what queer time is to maybe define it. Queer time is a phenomenon that queer people, either gay, lesbian, bi, trans experience, may undergo due to sort of societal norms and certain pathways of what a human or adult looks like.
Editing all of here. I feel like I didn't explain it well enough. I'm saying queer time is a theory that is introduced by many of the sociologists and people who write about queer theory, and it's about how queer people will experience the world a lot differently to their cis-het counterparts, and certain milestones aren't reached or met due to being queer and undergoing a different life trajectory. I hope this is a better definition there.
Gay marriage is legalised here in the UK, but it wasn't until 2012, and in a lot of countries it's still not legalised, or it's become a recent thing. So to even have the option of marriage as a milestone was never a thing, or isn't a thing for a lot of queer people. More in my opinions on queer time in a second, but I wanted to get more of the established facts sorted. Time implies that certain milestones are either delayed or not reached or just don't exist for queer people, or that people will go through milestones all over again, e.g. a second puberty. And this obviously alters and affects how you approach the world and how you feel within the world and how grown up you feel. Growing up, the way I grew up and realising I was gay, I didn't realise, I kind of knew deep down, but until I was about 20, that's when I formally came out. But for years, I was questioning my sexuality. I was constantly analysing crushes. Did I really like this person? Did I not? What is a crush? Is right or wrong? Am I going to go to hell for this? Etc. etc. And years of constantly questioning your identity and your morality as a person. A lot of that. You spend a lot of your teenage years thinking, well, I'm doing anything, just thinking and being scared of your own sexuality. And I realised that some people, even other lesbians, have had a different experience of their sexuality, dated men before, and then come to realise afterwards. But for me, I was more, to be honest, I thought I was asexual. And I think I had good reason to think that I don't understand of things, because there's no education for gay people or LGBTQ plus people. And I just think growing up as a lesbian, you also have a different relationship towards gender, towards womanhood, what it means to be a woman. Because I think from a young age this is compulsory heterosexuality, cis-normativity, we are the other gender, women. I know lesbians can also be non-binary, other gender, we aren't a whole outside men. Existence is in relation to, as a straight man, how we can reproduce. Well, that's simplified, but that's what society tends to project, and women tend to surround what it means to be in addition to a man, rather than as a whole individual. I'm obviously grateful that feminism has stepped forward and allows women to be individuals, but even to this day we're still affected. We are still the second gender, the other lives are in danger, etc. etc. So then when you realise that you're different and you don't have that currency of getting with guys. You realise you're kind of like stuck, but you realise you've got a kind of disadvantage. And that disadvantage, people can tell. And they're growing up. Even if I didn't know I was gay, I think other kids, other teens could sense that something was off. She didn't interact with boys the way other girls do, or she wasn't interested. What's wrong with her? So there's definitely like an element of like social isolation as well. And not even being able to fit in or bond with other girls. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm not like the other girls, because I've got queer friends, a lot of queer friends actually. Most of my friends are queer or straight allies. It's definitely a way where you get filtered out and obviously have some struggles because you're seen as different when you're a teenager. A lot of people are out, which means like your first relationships or even like friendships are delayed, and yeah, a lot of queer people don't have their first relationships till much later than the cis-het counterparts, or even people who are maybe queer but can present in heterosexual relationships. And this makes you feel like you are behind and you're not doing the right thing, or you don't know what is right because you're already, quote unquote, you're not failing, but society makes you feel like you're failing as a woman or a man or etc. And I know I talked about my experience as a lesbian and female growing up, but I'm sure there's similar cases with gay men and non-binary people and other queer people, all sorts, how they may feel different and how it relates to them and their own gender. And obviously it's a completely different experience view of the trans experience.
If this works this time. So queerness affects when you have your first kiss, your first intimate moments, etc., etc. And that might make you feel weird on like the path of life and whatever that means. Many of us, we didn't have relationships till our 20s, even a lot of people, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it goes beyond that because they haven't been allowed to be out or been comfortable with who they are. I think people your age getting married and you think, what's going on? I feel like I've just went through puberty. Like queer people go through a second puberty. This is more my opinion. They go through their sort of cis-het puberty, where everyone is forcing them to like the opposite gender they're assigned birth at, and do all the social sort of performance around that. And then the second puberty is when you're actually who you are and exploring your identity as a queer person. And I definitely think the second puberty has sadness there. There is a sadness for your sort of younger self that you did not experience this the first time round. You feel like you've lost out on years, lost out on sort of that high school of genuine being able to be excited about your crushes. There's definitely a mourning there. I still feel this sadness, but I'm obviously really grateful because I'm still relatively young in the grand scheme of things that I'm able to experience this and be who I am now. But there is definitely a sadness for like a younger version of me that she couldn't be as open or as comfortable with herself or being informed. I think an important thing to mention is in the terms of the AIDS epidemic, there's those queer people that were affected by AIDS now that obviously dramatically shortened lives and cut so much away of a whole population of people as were lost, and it's obviously a horrible experience, a horrible thing to happen, and not only a person to experience AIDS, but for a person to see their friends, family, loved ones die because of it or have long-term ailments because of it. It would alter your view of life and how you experience things and when you may hold certain things off. Or I think it's just important to mention that a lot of LGBTQ plus people, there's a history there. There's a history of safety. There's a history of gross discrimination and horribleness. And that will affect your experience of life. Not only there's the physical sort of health side of the AIDS. AIDS is an example, but there's other issues surrounding it, but there's the mental health side. There's the feeling like you are evil, or feeling like there's something wrong, or everyone not liking you, that sort of thing. That definitely will affect your mental health, and mental health definitely affects milestones. I don't know if I can speak too much to this, but I mean, I think I identify as a woman, but sometimes I'm like, maybe there's some spice in the binary there, but we're going to leave that for now. Anyways, the trans experience must be a complete, utter world change. You've been raised one gender, then experience life through another gender or expression of gender, and learn all these, especially if you are more on the binary side of the trans spectrum, learning new sort of gender roles, or to sort of act accordingly to what this gender is. I mean, gender, I know gender's kind of made up, but it's also very real. But it's just crazy, and you must have to reform your identity, or I mean, hopefully you're being more you, and hopefully that this feels you and you're not like performing anymore. But I think a gender is a performance a lot of the time. Yeah. I feel like this is all over the place, but returning back to my sort of point, is the feeling that you're behind, feeling like you haven't had certain relationships, you haven't went through certain things. I'm not saying straight counterparts haven't suffered or gone through identity crises, but a lot of people don't always have to question their identity or overthink who they are, just exist. And getting to that place of just existing, I think it's kind of new to queer people. I'm hoping people who are born now, who are growing up now, can be queer and be like, that's just totally normal, but it is definitely a thing of progress. So like, I guess later in life, I'm sort of skipping time. Now, like, when you have kids, hypothetically, if you want kids, not all queer people will have kids. Well, there's the assumption that they can't have kids, but there's a different sort of pressure, or you have a pressure to women to have kids, but when you are gay, this sort of challenges it. And how do you go around that? Oh my god, my laptop is firing off. We'll go with the example of having kids. For like a lesbian couple who decide to have IVF, they have to save money up for their child, whereas a cis-het, not all cis-het couples, because some have struggles obviously, but it tends to be cheaper, or the NHS wouldn't fund it, for example, for lesbians for a while to save up more money, and that'd obviously delay you having kids, or even like adoption, or there's just more barriers to entry, I believe. To be honest, I don't quite know what I'm going to do to conclude on this, but I just think queer time, to me, and I've seen TikToks of this, queer time is like, when you're in your 20s, you feel like you're in your teens. When you're in your 30s, you feel like you're in your 20s. So that you're still going through, and in your 40s, your 30s, etc., developmental delay. And it's not saying that we're behind or anything, we're just on a different path. Hard to see what your path will look like if you have not many examples in your life of media, or just people in your life in general, or the way society is. And no wonder you're going to feel a bit discombobulated with queer time. I want this to be like a sort of reassurance to other queer people that you're not behind or wrong, or you're doing what's right, and queer time is there for you. Queer time is there, like, we're just going to experience life differently, and that's kind of cool. Like, we don't have to do what the straighties are doing, you know what I mean? Like, we can forge our own path, and I think that's kind of liberating. It's scary at first, but definitely liberating, and hopefully the world become a safer place so we can all do this. Listening, if you made it this far, my laptop might be about to blast off into space, if you can hear it. Like, subscribe for my silly little rambles of, I want it to be essay-like, but then it just turns into a thought piece instead. So yeah, you subscribe wherever the button is.